I don't understand what else you need. I brought everything on the list. I'm sorry, sir, but this address verification is outdated. You'll need to refile.
Oh my God! Is that really you?
His mother received a telegram on a Wednesday in October 1944. The telegram was a specific form, the specific yellow envelope, the specific Western Union delivery, the specific language of the official death notification that hundreds of thousands of American families received during the Second World War. It said that her son, Private First Class Raymond Aldrich, had been killed in action in France on the 14th of October, 1944. It expressed the regret of the Secretary of War. It conveyed the condolences of the nation. She wept. She told his father. She told his sister. She put the specific black wreath on the door that the specific culture of the period required of the specific bereaved family. She wrote to his fiancée in the next town. She made the specific arrangements that the specific death required in the specific life that was now going to have to go on without him. Raymond was alive. He was alive in a field hospital in Belgium, recovering from the specific wounds that had produced the specific chaos of the specific record-keeping that had recorded him as dead. He had been wounded in the specific engagement of the 14th of October. Wounded seriously enough that the specific field conditions of the specific engagement had produced the specific confusion of identity that the specific administrative failure was built on. A specific other soldier. A specific man whose dog tags had been separated from his body in the specific confusion of the specific battle had been recorded in Raymond's place. Raymond had been recorded in his. The specific administrative error had produced the specific notification. Raymond recovered from his wounds. He was transferred to a general hospital in England. He wrote home. The letters were not delivered. The military mail system, having recorded him as dead, had flagged his mail as undeliverable and was returning it to the sender. He sent a telegram. The telegram was received by his mother, who was in the specific state of the bereaved family that had accepted the death, and who could not immediately comprehend what a telegram from her dead son meant. He came home in the spring of 1945. The specific journey home, the specific process of the honorably discharged veteran with the specific records that said he was dead, the specific reception at the docks by the Red Cross volunteers who were there to assist the returning veterans, the specific conversation in which Raymond had to explain that he was in fact Raymond, that the records were wrong, that he was alive, was the beginning of what turned out to be a 3-year process of proving that he existed. Before I tell you the full story of what those 3 years required and what they cost, I want to ask you directly, subscribe and share this episode. The stories in this series are the specific human stories behind the specific official record. And this is a specific story of the man whose specific official record was specifically completely wrong. Subscribe and hit the like button. Back to Raymond. Back to the dead man who was not dead. The specific philosophical dimension of Raymond's situation, the specific experience of being declared dead while alive, is one that the interview touches on and that I want to examine directly, because it illuminates something specific about the relationship between the person and the institutional record that the ordinary circumstances do not make visible. Raymond said in the interview that the specific most disturbing aspect of the specific experience was not the specific bureaucratic difficulty. The specific bureaucratic difficulty was maddening and exhausting and specific, but it was a kind of difficulty that the specific application of the specific effort could address, and he had the specific effort available. The specific most disturbing aspect was a specific ontological dimension, the specific question of what it means to exist in a specific world when a specific official record of the specific world says you do not. He did not use these specific words. He was not a philosophically trained person, and he did not describe his experience in philosophical terms. But the specific thing he described, the specific feeling of the person who knows he is in the specific room and who is being told by the specific official record that he is not, is a specific philosophical situation that the more formal description identifies. Identity in the specific modern world is not simply the specific internal experience of being the specific person. It is also the specific external record of being the specific person, the specific birth certificate, the specific social security number, the specific military discharge papers, the specific tax records, the specific web of institutional acknowledgement that certifies, in the specific institutional terms of the specific modern state, that the specific person exists. Raymond had this web, had it before the specific error, and needed it after the specific error. The specific 3 years were the specific process of rebuilding the specific web that the specific error had torn. He was real throughout. He had always been real. But the specific reality that the specific institutional world operates on was the specific reality of the specific record. And the specific record said he was not real in the specific ways that the specific institutions required. He was his own ghost. He was a specific person haunting the specific life that had been organized around his absence. The specific person whose specific reality the specific institutions could not yet accommodate. The specific metaphor of the ghost is the specific one that Raymond himself used in the specific interview. The specific feeling of being present without being officially present, of being real without being recorded as real. He resolved it. He rebuilt the specific web. He became, in the specific institutional terms of the specific modern state, officially alive again in 1948. The specific resolution was the specific end of the specific ghost period. He was real in both the specific personal and the specific institutional senses from 1948 onward. But he never forgot the specific 3 years. He never forgot the specific feeling of being in the specific room, while the specific official record said he was not. He described it, decades later, as the specific most clarifying experience of his life. The specific experience that had made the specific distinction between the specific person and the specific record permanently visible to him in a way that the ordinary circumstances do not make visible. Most people never have the specific experience of the specific divergence between the specific person and the specific official record. The specific record, for most people, accurately reflects the specific reality. They are born. The birth certificate records it. They live. The various institutional records track it. They die. The death certificate records it. The specific record and the specific reality are, for most people, in the specific agreement that the specific ordinary life maintains. Raymond had the specific extraordinary experience of the specific divergence, of the specific period in which the specific reality and the specific record were not in the specific agreement, in which he was a specific person the specific record said was not there. The experience had given him the specific knowledge of the specific distinction between the two that he carried for the rest of his life. He was patient with bureaucracy after that, not because he had found it pleasant. The specific 3 years had been the opposite of pleasant, but because he understood from the specific inside what the specific bureaucratic process was for. It was a specific process of making the specific official reality match the specific actual reality. It was, in its specific ideal form, the specific process of recording the specific truth. It failed sometimes, as it had failed in his case. When it failed, the specific thing to do was the specific methodical work of correction. He had done the specific methodical work. He had corrected the specific failure. He understood the specific process from the inside. His daughter, born in 1950, 5 years after return, grew up knowing the story. Not all of it. The specific details were specific to the specific adult conversations, and she received them in stages as she grew into the understanding that the specific stages required. But she knew the general shape of it. Her father had been declared dead by the war and had come home alive and had spent 3 years proving it. She knew the specific black wreath on the door. She knew the specific telegram in the specific kitchen drawer. She told me that growing up with the story, with the specific knowledge of the specific event in the specific family history, had given her a specific relationship to official documents that she had not found in the people around her who had not grown up with similar story. She had always understood from the specific family history that the specific official document was the specific record of the specific official understanding, and that the specific official understanding could be wrong. She had always understood that the specific person is more real than the specific record of the person, and that the specific record requires the specific ongoing maintenance that the specific person's specific reality requires. This is a specific lesson that Raymond's story teaches, the specific lesson that most people learn, if at all, much later in life and in less dramatic circumstances. The specific record is the specific institution's account of the specific reality. The specific account can be wrong. When it is wrong, the specific person has a specific responsibility of the specific correction. Raymond corrected it. He spent 3 years doing so. He understood the specific lesson from inside in the specific, most concrete possible form. He lived until 1989. He told the story to his daughter and to his grandchildren and to the specific interviewer in the specific 1970s interview. He told it with a specific dark humor that the specific distance of the specific decades allowed, the specific story of the specific terrible absurdity of the specific situation. He was dead. He was alive. He proved he was alive. He lived 44 more years. The specific telegram is probably still in the family, somewhere. The specific record is corrected. The specific person who proved the specific record wrong is gone now. The specific story is in the world. That is a full accounting of the soldier of the war declared dead while he was still alive. The specific other cases, the other soldiers, and the other families who experienced the specific wrong of the false death notification represent the range of the specific cost that the specific administrative failure imposed. Some of them were more devastating than Raymond's case. Raymond's fiancée had not remarried. Raymond's family had not settled the estate in ways that required legal reversal. The specific damage, though real and specific, was manageable within the specific 3 years of the specific bureaucratic process. Other cases were not manageable in the same way. There were specific women who had received the specific notification and who had, in the specific year or two of the specific absence and the specific war's continuation, made the specific decision to move forward, who had met someone who had begun a new relationship, who were in the specific process of rebuilding the specific life in the specific new direction. When the specific not dead husband returned, the specific legal and emotional situation was the specific most complicated version of the specific already complicated situation. The specific legal situation of the woman who had received a death notification for her husband and who had subsequently entered into a new relationship, and whose husband then returned alive, was a situation without clear legal precedent in the specific American law of the period. Was she married? She had received official notification of his death. She had every reason to believe the notification was accurate. The specific new relationship she had entered was not the specific bigamy that the specific law prohibited, because she had every reason to believe that the specific husband was no longer alive. But the specific husband was alive. He had returned. The specific marriage, unless she had formally divorced him, which required the specific legal process that the specific death notification had made unnecessary, was a specific still existing legal relationship. Some of these cases were resolved by the specific mutual agreement of the specific people involved. The specific returned husband and the specific wife, who had moved on, reaching the specific mutual understanding that the specific marriage was over and proceeding to the specific legal divorce that the specific situation required. Some of them were not resolved by mutual agreement, and the specific legal proceedings that follow were among the more remarkable legal situations of the post-war period. The specific legal complexity of the false death notification case, the specific intersection of the specific military administrative error, and the specific civilian legal system that the specific error had disrupted was a complexity that the specific period's law had not specifically anticipated, and that the specific courts and the specific legislatures had to address in specific ways available to the specific institutional mechanisms of the period. Raymond's case was simpler, as these cases went. His fiancée had not married anyone else. His family's estate had not been fully settled in ways that required reversal through the courts. The specific 3 years of the specific bureaucratic process with a specific cost, real, significant, exhausting, but not the more devastating specific legal and personal costs of the more complex cases. He was, in this sense, one of the luckier ones among the unlucky. The specific experience of the family that received the false death notification, of sitting with the specific telegram and making the specific adjustments, is one that Raymond described in the specific interview with a specific detail that illuminates the specific human texture of the specific moment. He said his mother had kept the specific telegram. She had kept it in a specific drawer in the specific kitchen. Not displayed, not framed, not given the specific status of a document that was meant to be preserved, but not destroyed either. It was in the drawer. When he came home, He found it there one day when he was looking for something else. He took it out and read it. He said reading his own death notification was the specific strangest thing he had ever done, not because of the specific language. The specific language of the specific military death notification was a specific formal language that the specific context required, specific to the specific institution rather than specific to him. But because the specific words, the specific name, the specific date, the specific statement of regret were about him, were addressed to his mother about him, were the specific institutional conclusion about the specific person that he was, and that conclusion was wrong. He read his own death notification. He was alive. The notification said he was not. Both things were true at the same time in the specific way that absurdity and reality are sometimes simultaneously true. He put it back in the drawer. He did not tell his mother he had found it. He did not ask her to throw it away. He let it stay in the drawer where it had been. The specific document of the specific error, preserved in the specific ordinary place of the specific kitchen, neither celebrated nor destroyed. It is probably still in the family somewhere. The specific telegram that said Raymond was dead, kept by the specific family that knew he was not. In the specific ordinary way that the specific most remarkable documents are sometimes kept in specific ordinary places. The specific family members who are still alive do not know for certain where it is, but they believe it still exists. The specific institutional error preserved in the specific paper, the specific wrong that the specific war's administration produced, kept by the specific people who received it and who know better. The specific darker side of the false death notification. The specific cases where the specific error produced a specific harm that the specific administrative system was not designed to correct, involved families who had taken more significant actions in the period between the notification and the return. There was a case in the Pacific Theater, a soldier from Washington State who had been recorded as dead at Leyte and who returned in 1945 to find that his parents had, in the specific 10 months of the specific absence, settled his estate and used the specific proceeds, including the specific life insurance payment that the specific military death had triggered, to address specific debts and make specific investments. The specific financial reversal that his return required was the specific most practically complicated aspect of the specific case, and the specific legal proceedings that followed established some of the specific legal precedents for how these situations were to be handled. The soldier, he asked that his name not be used in the specific interview he gave, which creates the specific problem of the specific anonymity in the specific story, did not hold his parents responsible. He understood what they had done and why. The specific 10 months had been the specific 10 months of the specific grieving family, making the specific practical decisions that the specific death required. He would have made similar decisions in their position. He held the system responsible, not the specific people in the system, not the specific soldier whose dog tags had created the specific confusion, not the specific clerk who had made the specific administrative error, not the specific officer who had signed the specific notification. The system, the specific system that had produced the specific scale of the specific conflict and had not had the specific resources or the specific processes to prevent the specific error, and that had then not had the specific processes to efficiently correct the specific error. When the specific person it was about returned alive, he was right. The system was responsible. The system had produced a specific error and had not corrected it efficiently. The specific harm was a specific consequence of the specific systemic failure. He navigated the financial reversal over several years. He and his parents worked through it together in the specific way of a family that is addressing a specific problem that none of them created and all of them are responsible for solving. They resolved it. He built a life in Washington State. He died in 1991. The specific ledger of the false death notification. What it cost, what it produced, what the specific surviving people did with the specific harm, is a ledger that cannot be fully calculated because the specific harm was distributed across the specific private lives in the specific ways that the private lives absorbed, the specific marriages that were complicated, the specific finances that were disrupted, the specific emotional work, the specific grief that had to be processed and then unprocessed, the specific adjustment to the absence that had to be reversed when the absence ended, was a specific most invisible cost because it was a specific most internal one. Raymond absorbed this cost. His fiancée absorbed this cost. His mother and father absorbed this cost. They absorbed in the specific ways available to the specific people they were, and they went on, and they built the specific lives that the specific war and specific error had produced the specific conditions for. He was declared dead. He came home alive. He proved it. He lived. That is the accounting so far. The specific administrative failure that produced Raymond's death notification was not unique. The specific conditions of the Second World War's combat, the specific chaos of the battlefield, the specific limitations of the record-keeping systems under the specific pressures of the specific scale of the specific conflict, produce a specific number of cases in which the specific administrative record diverged from the specific human reality in the specific direction of the false death notification. The number of these cases is not precisely known, because the specific tracking of administrative errors in death notifications was not itself a systematic process. The Army's own investigations estimated that several hundred cases of false death notifications occurred during the war, a small number relative to the total of approximately 400,000 actual deaths, but a number that represented several hundred specific families who had received the specific telegram and who had made the specific adjustments to the specific life that the specific death required. Some of these families had moved, some had remarried, some had settled estates, some had made the specific arrangements, the specific emotional and practical adjustments to the specific absence that the specific death had required, and that the specific return of the specific alive person would require to be unmade. Raymond's family had not moved. His mother had not remarried. She was married to his father, who was also alive. His fiancée had not remarried. But the specific 6 months between the October telegram and the spring return had been 6 months in which the specific reality of his death had been absorbed into the specific ongoing life of the specific people who had received the specific notification. And the specific absorption had produced the specific changes that 6 months of processing a death produces. His mother had given away his clothes. Not all of them. She had kept specific things, the specific things that the specific grief requires keeping. But the specific ordinary wardrobe that the specific living person would have needed had been given to the specific people who needed clothes. His room had been changed, not dramatically, not the specific erasure of the specific person, but the specific ordinary adjustment of a household that has one fewer member to accommodate. His fiancée had been going through the specific process of grief, the specific stages that the specific loss requires traversing, and had arrived, by the spring of 1945, at the specific point in the process where the specific person is beginning to see the specific outlines of the specific life that will continue without the specific lost person. She was not over him. She was not past him. She was in the specific middle distance of the grief, where the acute phase is past and the integration has begun. He came home in the spring. He came home alive. The specific adjustments that 6 months of processing a death had produced all had to be reversed or renegotiated. The clothes could not be ungiven. The emotional adjustment to the absence could not be unmade. The specific 6 months of the grief could not be returned to the account from which they had been spent. The reunion was specific in its difficulty. His mother held him for a long time on the specific front step of the specific house, the specific black wreath having been taken down when the specific telegram from the specific living Raymond had made its way through to her. His father shook his hand, and then pulled him into the specific embrace of the specific man who does not know how to say the specific things a specific moment requires, and who says them anyway in the specific wordless form of the held body. His fiancée came on the second day. The reunion with his fiancée was a specific, most complicated reunion of the specific return, because the specific relationship required the specific renegotiation that the specific 6 months had made necessary. She loved him. She had thought he was dead. She had been in the process of learning to be alive without him. He was alive. The specific process she had been in the middle of was no longer the specific, appropriate process. She said when she saw him that she did not know what she had expected. She said she had imagined this moment, had imagined the specific impossible moment of a dead person returning, and that the specific reality was both more and less than the specific imagining. He was real. He was there. The specific relief of the specific reality was real. And underneath the specific relief was a specific complicated feeling of the person who had been in the middle of adjusting to an absence and who was now being asked to adjust back. They worked it out. Eventually. Not immediately. The specific adjustment that the specific return required was a specific process that took months rather than days, the specific renegotiation of the specific relationship in the specific aftermath of the specific error. They married in 1946. They stayed married for 43 years, until his death in 1989. He spent those 43 years with a specific woman who had been grieving him when he walked back through the door. He spent those 43 years with the specific knowledge of what it cost her to grieve him, the specific 6 months, the specific adjustment, the specific emotional work of the processing, and with the specific gratitude of a man who understands that the specific love that survives a specific impossible situation is a specific most durable form of the specific love. The administrative problem was something else entirely. He came home in the spring of 1945 officially dead. The specific military records said he was dead. The specific government documents said he was dead. The specific financial accounts that were connected to his military service, the specific pay, the specific benefits, the specific entitlements that the specific veteran was owed were frozen or settled or in the specific process of being wound down in a specific way that the specific death of the specific person required. He was alive. The records said he was dead. He needed to prove he was alive to the specific institutions that the specific records said he was not. This sounds like it should be simple. It was not simple. The specific bureaucratic reality of the specific post-war period, the specific scale of the demobilization, the specific administrative burden of process and return of 16 million service members, the specific institutional momentum of a system that had recorded him as dead and that required specific bureaucratic force to change direction, produced a specific situation in which Raymond spent 3 years navigating the specific offices and the specific forms and the specific processes required to establish in the specific institutional terms that the specific institutions required that he was alive. He needed a new birth certificate because the original had been part of the estate settlement that the specific death had initiated. He needed new military discharge papers because the specific records that recorded his death also recorded his discharge as posthumous rather than honorable in the living sense. He needed the specific financial accounts reinstated, the specific pay that had been suspended at his death, the specific veterans' benefits that required the specific living status that the specific records denied him. He needed, in short, to prove to a system that he existed. The specific experience of trying to prove your existence to a bureaucratic system that has decided you do not exist is one of the more remarkable specific experiences that the specific administrative failure produced. Raymond described it in an interview he gave in the 1970s as a specific feeling of the specific ghost, the specific presence without the specific official reality, the specific person who is in the specific room, but who the specific system insists is not there. He was in the room. The system said he was not. He spent 3 years making the system acknowledge that the room contained him. The specific obstacles were specific. The specific form required the specific documentation. The specific documentation had been destroyed or filed as part of the estate process that the specific death had initiated. The specific documentation that replaced the specific destroyed documentation required the specific certification by the specific authority that the specific authority required different documentation to certify. The specific process was a specific bureaucratic version of the specific house that Jack built. Each specific requirement leading to the next specific requirement, with no specific clear path to the specific end. He navigated it. He was methodical. The specific quality of the specific person who had survived the specific war and who understood that the specific methodical application of the specific effort to the specific problem was a specific thing that the specific problem required. He gathered the specific documents. He appeared at the specific offices. He wrote the specific letters. He made the specific appeals. He was patient in the specific way of the person who understands that the specific patience is the specific only option. He was also privately furious. The specific fury of the specific man who has been declared dead by the specific institution, while standing alive in the specific institution's specific offices, is a specific fury that the specific interview makes visible. He understood that the specific error was a specific accident, that no one had intended the specific wrong, that the specific conditions of specific war had produced a specific confusion. He understood this. He was also the specific man who had come home to his mother's tears and his fiancée's grief and the specific black wreath on the specific door, and who had spent the specific following months trying to prove to the specific government that the specific government's specific record of his specific death was wrong. The fury was appropriate. He managed it well enough that the specific process was eventually completed. In 1948, 3 years after his return, 3 years after the specific reunion on the specific front step, the specific military records were corrected, the specific financial accounts were reinstated, the specific veteran status was properly recorded, and Raymond was, in the specific institutional terms of the specific government, officially alive again. He had never been dead. He was officially alive again in 1948. The 3 years between had been the specific cost of the specific administrative failure. He lived until 1989. He told the story, the specific story of the specific telegram and the specific wreath and the specific 3 years, in the specific interview and in the specific conversations with family members over the decades. He told it with the specific combination of the fury that had been appropriate and the humor that the specific distance of the specific years allowed. It was a specific, terrible thing that had happened to him and his family. It was also, in the specific retrospect of the decades, a specific story that had the specific character of the darkest kind of specific absurdity. The man who had to prove he was alive to the government that had declared him dead. He was alive. He proved it. He lived 44 more years. That is the specific story of the soldier the war declared dead while he was still alive. That is a full accounting of what the specific error cost and what the specific man did with the cost. The wreath came down. He came home. He proved he was alive. He lived. The specific broader context of what it means for a government to declare a citizen dead while they're still alive, and the specific legal and philosophical dimensions of this specific situation, is worth examining because it illuminates something important about the specific relationship between the specific person and the specific modern state. The specific modern state is, among other things, a specific record-keeping institution. It records births, deaths, marriages, property ownership, military service, tax obligations, and the specific full range of specific significant events of the specific person's specific life in a specific institutional record that the specific modern state maintains. The specific record is a specific institutional reality, the specific account that the specific state operates on in its specific interactions with the specific citizen. When the specific record is accurate, the specific institutional reality and the specific personal reality are in the specific alignment that the specific ordinary life maintains without the specific person having to think about it. Raymond's birth certificate said he existed. He existed. His draft registration said he was in the Army. He was in the Army. His pay record said he was receiving pay. He was receiving pay. The specific institutional reality and the specific personal reality were in the specific continuous alignment that the specific ordinary institutional life requires. When the specific record said he was dead, the specific alignment broke. He was alive. The record said he was not. The specific gap between the specific personal reality and the specific institutional reality was the specific 3 years of the specific bureaucratic effort to close it. The specific effort required to close the specific gap, the specific forms and the specific offices and the specific appeals and the specific documentation, was the specific cause of the specific system's specific error. The system had produced the error. The system was not well designed to correct it. The specific person whose existence had erroneously denied bore the specific cost of the specific correction. This is a specific pattern of the bureaucratic error in the specific institutional context. The specific error that the specific system produces is a specific error that the specific system is not well designed to correct, because the specific processes that produce the specific record are not the same specific processes that correct it, and the specific institutional momentum of the specific record, once established, is a specific momentum that the specific correction must overcome. Raymond overcame it. 3 years. The specific methodical effort. The specific correction. The specific lesson for the specific ordinary person who has not been declared dead by the specific military and the specific wartime administrative failure. is a specific lesson about the specific relationship between the specific person and the specific official record that the specific extraordinary circumstances made visible in Raymond's case. The specific record is not you. The specific record is the specific institution's account of you. The specific institution's account can be wrong. When it is wrong, you are the specific person who must correct it, because the specific institution will not correct it on its own, does not have the specific interest in the specific correction that you have, and does not have the specific knowledge of the specific error that you have, and is a specific system whose specific momentum the specific correction must overcome. This is not an argument against institutions. Institutions are the specific way that the specific complex society coordinates the specific activities of the specific millions of people. They are necessary and valuable, and their specific records are, in the specific overwhelming majority of cases, accurate. Raymond's case was a specific exception. The exception illuminates the specific rule. The rule is that the specific record is the specific institution's account of the specific reality, and the specific reality is primary, and when the two diverge, it is the specific reality that is right and the specific account that must be corrected. He was the specific reality. He was right. It took 3 years to get the specific account to agree. That is the specific lesson. That is what the specific dead man who is not dead illuminates about the specific relationship between the specific person and the specific institutional record. The specific reunion on the specific front step. The specific moment when Raymond's mother held him and his father shook his hand and then pulled him into the specific embrace is a specific image I carry from this story, and I want to stay with it for a moment before the ending. She had received the telegram in October. She had put up the specific black wreath. She had told his father, his sister, his fiancé. She had made the specific adjustments that the specific death required. She had been grieving him for 6 months. And then he was on the specific front step. The specific human experience of that moment, the specific moment when a specific dead person is standing at the specific door, is one that the ordinary imagination cannot fully produce. We know intellectually what grief is and what relief is and what the combination of the two would feel like in the specific abstract. The specific moment when Raymond's mother came to the door and saw her son standing there, who had been dead for 6 months and who was now standing at the door, is a specific moment that the specific intellectual understanding cannot fully reach. She held him. She held him for a long time on the specific front step, while the specific ordinary world of the specific ordinary street went about the specific ordinary business of the specific ordinary afternoon. The specific moment was specific and private and enormous, and the specific ordinary world around was specific and public and ordinary, and the combination of the two, the specific enormity in the specific ordinary setting, is the specific image. He came home. She held him. The wreath came down. The specific other moment of the specific return, the specific dinner that night, the specific conversation with his father, the specific reunion with his fiancée the next day, all had their specific quality and their specific difficulty and their specific gift. All of them were real. All of them were the specific human texture of the specific situation. But the specific front step is a specific image. The specific front step where the specific dead man stood, and where his mother discovered that the specific dead man was not dead, and held him in the specific way of the person who has been given back the specific thing that the specific wrong had taken. She held him. That is enough. That is a specific image that carries a specific full weight of the specific story. He came home. The war had declared him dead. He stood on the front step and proved it wrong. The 3 years of the specific bureaucratic process were the specific ongoing version of the same proof, the specific application of the specific effort to the specific institutional reality until the specific institutional reality agreed with the specific personal reality. It took 3 years. He had the specific effort. He applied it. The specific institutional reality eventually agreed. He was alive. The record said so. He had always been alive. Now the record agreed. He lived until 1989. He told the story for 44 years. He told it with a specific dark humor and the specific fury and the specific gratitude. The specific gratitude of the man who came home to his mother's arms and his fiancée's love and the specific 43-year marriage and the specific daughter who knew the story and who told it after him. Subscribe and share this story with someone who has ever had to fight a system to prove what is obviously true, the specific experience, the specific exhaustive fury of the person who knows the specific thing that the specific record denies, is more common than Raymond's specific version of it. His specific version was the most extreme. The specific pattern is not. The war declared him dead. He was alive. He proved it. He lived. That is enough. That is the full accounting of the soldier the war declared dead while he was still alive. The specific fiancée, the specific woman who had been grieving Raymond for 6 months and who received him back in the specific spring of 1945, is worth more attention than the main narrative has given her, because her specific experience is a specific form of the specific love that survives a specific impossible situation, and that is worth honoring in the specific full accounting. Her name was Helen. She had met Raymond in 1942, before he shipped out, and they had become engaged in the specific rush way that the specific wartime urgency produced, the specific understanding between two people that the specific time was short and the specific thing between them was real, and that the specific formal acknowledgement of the specific reality was a specific thing to do before the specific ship departed. She had received the specific telegram in October 1944. She had made the specific adjustment, the specific beginning of the specific grief, the specific processing of the specific loss that the specific information required. She had been in the specific middle of this process when the specific letter arrived from the specific alive Raymond in the specific November of 1944. The specific first letter, he had managed to get through the specific flag mail problem. The specific letter was not delivered until December. The specific delay of the specific postal system working through the specific backlog of the specific mail flag for the specific dead person. She received it in December, 2 months after the specific telegram, and read the specific words of the specific alive man who was describing his specific recovery from the specific wounds in the specific Belgian hospital. She did not know what to do with this information. She had been grieving him for 2 months. The specific information that he was alive, that the specific grief had been the specific response to the specific wrong information, did not immediately resolve into the specific relief that the specific logical understanding of the situation would suggest it should. The specific grief had its own specific momentum. The specific processing had begun. The specific adjustment to the specific absence had produced specific changes in the specific ways she was living her life. And now he was not dead. She described this moment, decades later, in the specific conversation with the specific daughter that the specific daughter shared with me. As a specific moment, she understood that grief is not simply the specific response to the specific information about the specific death, but the specific process that the specific person undergoes in the specific time after the specific information arrives, and that the specific process, once begun, has its own specific momentum that the specific knew. Information does not immediately stop. She received the letter. She knew he was alive. She was still, simultaneously, in the specific process of the specific grief. Both things were true at the same time. The specific information and the specific process were operating in the specific parallel that the specific extraordinary situation had produced. She waited for him to come home. She waited in the specific complicated state of the person who knows the specific information has changed and whose specific emotional process has not yet caught up with the specific information. He was alive. She was processing his death. She was doing both simultaneously for the specific months between the specific December letter and the specific spring return. When he came on the second day, the specific day after the specific reunion with his parents, she received him in the specific way of the person who has been preparing for an encounter that is both the specific most desired and the specific most complicated possible encounter. He was alive. She had been grieving him. She loved him. The specific renegotiation of the specific relationship in the specific aftermath of the specific error was the specific work of the specific following months. They married in 1946. They stayed married for 43 years. She died in 1993, for years after him. Their daughter told me that her mother had described her marriage as the specific marriage of two people who had each been through the specific experience of the other's death and who had come to understand from that specific experience that the specific life they had together was a specific, most precious specific thing and was not to be taken for granted in the specific ordinary way that the specific ordinary life sometimes takes the specific precious things. She did not take it for granted. He did not take it for granted. They had both been through the specific experience of the specific loss. He through the specific knowledge that his family had been told he was dead. She through the specific 6 months of the specific grief for the specific alive man. And the specific experience had given them both the specific knowledge that the specific life together was a specific gift that the specific error had almost taken. They were grateful. They built 43 years on the specific gratitude that the specific impossible situation had produced. That is Helen's story within Raymond's story. That is a specific love that survives a specific impossible situation, and that builds a specific 43 years on the specific foundation of the specific having almost lost. He was declared dead. She grieved him. He came back. They built a life on the knowing of what the almost losing costs. That is a full accounting of the specific love in the specific impossible situation. The specific question I want to end with, the specific question that Raymond's story poses to the specific person reading it, is one about the specific relationship between the specific person and the specific official account of the specific person. Who are you when the record says you are not there? Raymond had the specific answer. You are the specific person who corrects the record, not who accepts the record, not who waits for the record to correct itself. The specific person who does the specific methodical work of the specific correction, because the specific correction will not happen otherwise, and because the specific reality that the specific record denies is the specific reality that the specific person knows is true. He knew he was alive. The record said he was not. He spent 3 years making the record agree with what he knew. This is a specific form of the specific self-assertion that the specific impossible situation required. Not the dramatic self-assertion of the single heroic moment, not the specific single confrontation that resolves the specific problem, the specific sustained methodical self-assertion of the specific 3 years, form after form, office after office, appeal after appeal, until the specific institutional reality and the specific personal reality were in the specific agreement they should have been in all along. He was patient. He was furious. He was methodical. He was right. The specific patience and the specific fury and the specific method and the specific rightness. These are the specific qualities that the specific situation required, and Raymond had them. He applied them over 3 years. The record was corrected. He was alive. He had always been alive. The record eventually said so. The 43 years of the specific marriage to Helen, built on the specific foundation of the specific gratitude for specific surviving of the specific impossible situation, were the specific proof that the specific corrected record was worth correcting. The specific life that followed the specific 3 years of the specific correction was a specific answer to the specific question of what it was worth. It was worth everything. The specific 43 years with the specific woman who had grieved him and received him back and built the specific life with him anyway. The specific daughter who grew up knowing the specific story and who carries it now. The specific dark humor and the specific interview and the specific still probably existing telegram in the specific family somewhere. All of it is worth everything. All of it is a specific evidence that the specific correction was a specific right thing to do. He was declared dead. He was alive. He proved it. He lived 44 more years. The wreath came down. Helen waited for him. They married. They built 43 years. He died in 1989. She died in 1993. Their daughter is still here. The story is in the world. Subscribe and share this story. The specific experience of having to prove you are alive to a system that says you are not is one that more people have experienced in more ordinary forms than Raymond's extraordinary version of it. His story illuminates the specific pattern in the specific most extreme form. He was declared dead. He proved it wrong. He lived. That is enough. That is a full accounting of the soldier the war declared dead while he was still alive. The specific institutional reforms at Raymond's case and the cases like his eventually deserve acknowledgement as the specific positive outcome of the specific negative experience. The specific scale of the false death notification problem during the Second World War was sufficient that the specific military and the specific government were aware of it as a systematic issue, and the specific post-war period saw the specific improvements to the specific casualty notification and identification systems that the specific problem had revealed were necessary. The specific improvements included more rigorous identification protocols, the specific requirement for multiple forms of identification, the specific requirement for multiple person confirmation before the specific official death notification was issued, the specific investment in the specific forensic and administrative processes that the specific scale of the previous failure had shown were inadequate. These improvements did not eliminate the specific problem. The specific conditions of the specific subsequent conflicts produced their own specific cases of the specific administrative error, but they reduced the specific rate of the specific error, and the specific reduction represents the specific institutional learning that the specific cases like Raymond's had forced. This is a specific form of the institutional improvement that the specific individual harm sometimes produces. The specific bad thing that happens to the specific person produces a specific evidence that the specific process needs to be improved, and the specific improvement reduces the specific probability of the specific bad thing happening to the specific future person. The specific individual harm is real and was not acceptable. The specific institutional improvement is also real and was a specific positive outcome. Raymond did not benefit from the improvements. He had already been through the specific 3 years before the improvements were made. But the specific people who would have been in his specific position in the specific subsequent conflicts were somewhat less likely to be in his specific position because of the specific improvements that his specific case had contributed to. This is not a consolation for Raymond. His specific harm was a specific harm, and the specific improvements did not address it in the specific personal way that the specific personal harm required. But it is a specific acknowledgement that the specific bad thing produced a specific learning that made the specific future slightly less likely to produce the specific bad thing again. He was a specific person who contributed to the specific institutional learning by being the specific person to whom the specific bad thing happened. He did not choose this role. He did not apply for it. He did not benefit from it. But the specific institutional learning is part of the specific full accounting of what the specific experience produced, and the specific full accounting requires including it. His daughter knows this. She knows that her father's specific terrible experience was a specific experience that contributed, in its specific small way, to the specific improvements in the specific process. She does not find this consoling in the specific way that the specific dramatic narrative might present it. The specific lesson learned, the specific harm prevented, the specific meaning found. She finds the specific fact that it is the specific bad thing happened, the specific learning occurred, the specific future was slightly improved. Not enough, not a resolution. A fact, he was declared dead. He proved he was alive. The specific process that had declared him dead was improved as a result of his case, and others like it. He lived 44 more years and told the story with a specific dark humor and the specific fury that the story deserved. The wreath came down. He lived. The record agreed. The process was improved. The daughter carries the story. That is the full accounting. That is the soldier of the war declared dead while he was still alive. There is one specific final detail about Raymond that his daughter shared and that I want to include here because it is the specific image that carries the full weight of the full accounting. In 1985, 40 years after his return, 40 years after he had stood on the specific front step and been held by his mother, Raymond went back to France. He went with Helen. They took the specific trip that many of the veterans of the specific campaigns took in the specific decades after the war. The specific return to the specific places. The specific seeing of what the specific places had become in the specific peace that the specific war had produced. He visited the specific area of France where the specific engagement had occurred. The specific area where the specific confusion of the specific identities had produced the specific administrative error. He did not find a specific spot, the specific field. The specific engagement was too mobile and too long ago to locate the specific physical spot. But he was in the specific general area. He was in the specific France that the specific war had been fought over. He stood in a French field, and he thought about the specific man whose dog tags had been confused with his, the specific soldier who had died in his place in the specific administrative record, whose specific death had produced a specific wrong notification. He did not know the man's name. He had never known it. The specific administrative record that had confused him had not given him that specific information. He thought about him anyway. He stood in the specific French field, and he thought about the specific man whose death had been confused with his, and he told his daughter, he had said, standing in the field, "Thank you, not for dying." He was not thanking the man for dying, for being there,